Alright, welcome back everybody. Sorry about the delay in getting a new video up. Today we're going to be looking at Lives of Alchemystical Philosophers by Arthur Waite, and we can see it was published by Paul Trench Trubner and Company. And the exterior's not very interesting, it's just this sort of solid brown color, but it's in pretty good condition still. And the spine is in nice shape. So let's open it up and take a look at the title page here. So we can see the title is Lives of Alchemystical Philosophers, based on materials collected in 1815 and supplemented by recent researches, with a philosophical demonstration of the true principles of the magnum opus or great work of alchemical reconstruction and some account of the spiritual chemistry, by Arthur Edward Waite, author of The Real History of the Rosicrucians, The Mysteries of Magic, etc., to which is added a bibliography and Hermetic philosophy. It was published in London in 1888. So here is the preface. It says, "The foundation of this work will be found in the Lives of Alchemystical Philosophers, with a critical catalogue of books in occult chemistry and a selection of the most celebrated treatises on the theory and practice of the Hermetic art, which was published in the year 1815 by Lackington, Allen and Company of Finsbury Square, London. This anonymous book has been attributed by certain collectors to Francis Barrett, author of the notorious treatise entitled The Magus or Celestial Intelligencer, but it may be safely affirmed that, alike in matter and treatment, it far transcends the extremely meager capacities of that credulous amateur in occultism. It is indeed a work of much sense and unpretentious discrimination, and is now a bibliographical rarity which is highly prized by its possessors. The independent researches which have supplemented the biographical materials of the original compilation have produced in the present volume what is practically a new work under an old title. Those lives which have been left substantially untouched as to facts have been more or less rewritten with a view to the compression of prolixities and the elimination of archaic forms, which would be incongruous in a work so extensively modified by the addition of new details." So this is just sort of like a redone version of that book, which she was inspired by, which was originally written in 1815, anonymously. So here's a table of contents. We can see these introductory sections here, and then a list of all of the different biographies of the different alchemistical philosophers. So we start with Geber, Rhasis, Alfarabi, Avicenna, Morian, Albertus Magnus, Thomas Aquinas, Roger Bacon, got Raymond Lull, and yeah, there's quite a few famous names in here. We've got Sir George Ripley at the top, Paracelsus, John Dee's in there, Jakob Boehme. Got a lot of famous names. And here's the introductory essay on the true principles and nature of the magnum opus and on its relation to spiritual chemistry. Those unfamiliar with modern alchemical criticism, even if they have some acquaintance with the mystical labyrinth of the Turba Philosophorum, will probably learn with astonishment that the opinions of competent judges are divided not only upon the methods of the mysterious Hermetic science, but upon the object of alchemy itself, that it is concerned with transmutation is granted, but with the transmutation of metals or of any physical substance into material gold is strenuously denied by a select section of reputable students of occultism. The transcendental theory of alchemy which they expound is steadily gaining favor, though the two textbooks which at present represent it are both out of print and both exceedingly scarce." And then it continues, "In the year 1850, a suggestive inquiry concerning the Hermetic mystery and alchemy, being an attempt to recover the ancient experiment of nature, was published anonymously in London by a lady of high intellectual gifts, but was almost immediately withdrawn for reasons unknown, and which have given occasion, in consequence, to several idle speculations. This curious and meritorious volume, quaintly written in the manner of the last century, originated the views which are in question and opened the controversy. So this book that he's referencing, Suggestive Inquiry into the Hermetic Mystery and Alchemy, I've actually got a copy of it right here that I'm going to pull down. So Hermetic Mystery and Alchemy. And it was originally published anonymously, but it was later determined who wrote it. And that was Margaret Anne Atwood, which we can see a picture of her here in her older years. All right, but we can look at that on another video. So anyway, this book, it's mostly just a compilation of all these different biographical accounts of these different famous alchemists. So we can see here different biographies, and this is of one of the most famous, which is Nicholas Flamel. You may have heard that name if you've watched any of the Harry Potter movies. The name of this alchemical adept has been profoundly venerated, not only in the memory of the Hermetists, but in the hearts of the French people, among whom he is the central figure of many marvelous legends and traditions. Whilst in all ages and nations the majority of hierophants have derived little but deception, ruination, and despair as the result of their devotion to alchemy, Nicholas Flamel enjoyed permanent good fortune and serenity. Far from expending his resources in the practice of the magnum opus, he added with singular suddenness a vast treasure to a moderate fortune. These he employed in charitable endowments and in pious foundations that long survived him and long sanctified his memory. He built churches and chapels which were adorned with statues of himself, accompanied by symbolical characters and mysterious crosses, which subsequent adepts had long strove to decipher, that they might discover his secret history, and the Kabbalistic description of the process by which he was conducted to the realization of the grand magisterium. Whether Flamel was born at Paris or Pontoise is not more uncertain than the precise date of his nativity. This occurred sometime during the reign of Philippe le Bel, the spoliator of the Grand Order of the Temple, and on the whole, the most probable year is 1330. His parents were poor and left him little more than the humble house in Paris which he continued to possess till his death, and which he eventually bequeathed to the church. It stood in Notary Street, at the corner of Marivaux Street, opposite the Marivaux door of the Church of Saint Jacques la Boucherie. I'm very sorry for the French pronunciation there. I don't know how to speak French. Flamel obtained in his youth, but it was sufficient to qualify him for the business of a scrivener, which, in spite of his wealth and his accredited wisdom, he continued to follow through life. He was proficient in painting and poetry and had a taste for architecture and the mathematical sciences, yet he applied himself steadily to business and contracted a prudent marriage, his choice falling on a widow named Purnell, who, though handsome, was over 40 years, but who brought a considerable dowry to her second husband. And here we continue. It says, in his capacity as a copyist before the age of printing, books of all classes fell into the hands of Flamel, and among them were many of those illuminated alchemical treatises which are reckoned among the rarest treasures of medieval manuscripts. Acquainted with the Latin language, he insensibly accumulated an exoteric knowledge of the aims and theories of the adepts. His interest and curiosity were awakened, and he began studying them in his leisure moments. Now tradition informs us that whether his application was great, his desire intense, or whether he was supereminently fitted to be included by divine election among the illuminated sons of the doctrine, or for whatever other reason, the mystical Bath Cole appeared to him under the figure of an angel, bearing a remarkable book bound in well-wrought copper, the leaves of thin bark, graven right carefully with a pen of iron. An inscription in characters of gold contained a dedication addressed to the Jewish nation by Abraham the Jew, prince, priest, astrologer, and philosopher. Flamel, cried the radiant apparition, behold this book of which thou understandest nothing. To many others but thyself it would remain forever unintelligible, but one day thou shalt discern in its pages what none but thyself will see. So the legend has it that as a scribe he eventually found or was blessed with this mysterious book that had the secret of the process of creating the Philosopher's Stone hidden in it, and he struggled for some time to decipher it and eventually was able to. It says, "But as to the matter which was written within, it was engraven, as I suppose, with an iron pencil or graver upon the said bark leaves, done admirably well, and in fair and neat Latin letters, and curiously colored. It contained thrice 7 leaves, for so they were numbered in the top of each folio, and every 7th leaf was without any writing, but in place thereof were several images or figures painted. Upon the first 7th leaf was depicted 1, a virgin, 2, serpents swallowing her up, on the second 7th, a serpent crucified, and on the last 7th, a desert or wilderness, in midst whereof were seen many fair fountains, whence issued out a number of serpents here and there. Upon the first of the leaves was written in capital letters of gold, Abraham the Jew, priest, prince, Levite, astrologer, and philosopher, to the nation of the Jews dispersed by the wrath of God in France, wisheth health. After which words it was filled with many execrations and curses, with this word Maranatha, which was oft repeated against any one that should look in to unfold it, except he were either priest or scribe." All right. So this legend goes on explaining Nicholas Flamel's life. There's a section in here where it talks about how he erected a mural at the Cemetery of the Innocents, which showed a dance macabre that supposedly encapsulated the process of creating the Philosopher's Stone, but that has since been torn down. So we have a bunch of other alchemists listed in here. Here's Thomas Norton, the author of the Ordinal of Alchemy. Here's a cool little thing where it says he wrote anonymously, but the initial syllables in the 6 first lines and the first line in the 7th chapter of his Ordinal of Alchemy compose the following couplet: "Thomas Norton of Bristol, a perfect master you may him trow." Sort of a hidden Easter egg for anybody who was able to find that in his work. So anyway, that's just a taste of this Lives of Alchemistical Philosophers, written by Arthur Waite, inspired by an older anonymous work from 1815. If you like the video, leave a like and comment and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Bye.